Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome, everyone, to the Divas That Care Network. I'm your host, Amy McKenzie. Today's show, The Wow of Women, features the remarkable journeys of women whose powerful and extraordinary choices positively impact people's lives. I'm so excited about today's guest, Tiffany Sparrow. Let me tell you a little bit about her before we bring her on. Tiffany is a vocalist, a songwriter, and multi-instrumentalist. She's a music therapist. She leads music meditations and group chanting, emphasizing mindful connection through music. Her techniques support people with mood and eating disorders, as well as chronic pain and head injury. The list goes on. She recently obtained her master's in musicology from U of A, researching group chanting, and you'll have to get the pronunciation of that correct for me there when you come on. And it's migration out of India. So just a wealth of tools in your toolkit for helping people. Tiffany, thank you so much for joining us today. It's great to have you.
Yeah, really happy to be here, Amy.
Yeah, so you're calling in from Alberta, Canada. I know we might have a little bit of a audio difficulty at some points, but it's so wonderful to do these calls internationally and hook up the world. I know that our guests would love to hear more about you. I want to kind of dig in. I know you're a musician and a music therapist, a wonderful singer too, I might add. What, if you wouldn't mind sharing with us, is the cause that's most dear to you? Like, what difference are you committed to making, Tiffany?
Well, you kind of alluded to it in going over my bio. Basically, it's about working with people to connect to their body and their soul through sound. It's been my way through. It's been how I've been able to overcome some difficulty, an eating disorder myself, actually, and by using these different practices. And so I'm really committed to helping people find freedom in their bodies by connecting to their soulfulness through sound.
And I love this too because this is news to me. I've certainly heard it in terms of mental anguish and music therapy helping children that are challenged in particular, but I've never heard it as in relation to such a thing as a head injury or eating disorders. The head injury makes sense, but that's incredible to me. How did you discover this therapy?
Well, okay, so I guess on the clinical side, there's been, with the advent of things like fMRI, used it in the last 10 years, there has been actually a field of music therapy called neurological music therapy that is showing some really cool things in terms of, rehabilitation from head injury, helping with speech rehabilitation, movement rehabilitation. So that is actually now a facet of clinical music therapy, and that's sort of my my day job / like my technical training, right? Where the other work comes in has been more my own personal development path and my explorations into spirituality and mindfulness and my travels to India and my work with my spiritual teachers, and less informed maybe by the clinical music therapy training that I've taken, although that's been lovely, and there's been lots of connection to sound and improvisation through that, but it's been kind of a marriage of those two, something that's a little more strategic. So learning about music, yes, is good for us. It can also be harmful, but using how to strategically use music, and then also combining that with mindfulness practices and developing relationship with people.
I love that. You're really weaving together the old and the new beautifully, the spirit and the science all coming together in your work.
You got
It's
it.
really something. Yeah. So what was your aha moment? When did this all begin for you?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I've been on my own personal wellness path since I was 12 when I was first diagnosed with anorexia, and that was a whole, intense journey as a young person. And being who I was kind of at the time that it was, I was surrounded by people that I felt didn't really understand what I was going through. And the methods that they were implementing, AKA, and this is not to knock pharmaceuticals, all the time, and also cognitive behavioral therapy, but those were the two methods that they were proposing to work with me. I knew then that those were not getting to the core of what I was facing, and that what I was facing was more of a spiritual crisis, if you would, for it necessarily. But I knew that there would be other things I would need to explore. And it started off kind of by myself in some ways. I mean, obviously with the support of my dear family, it was a very scary time for them as well. But, really just trying out different things and being drawn. I mean, music was in my family anyways. So I had that gift through my family. And so I was sort of surrounded with it. And as were devotional practices, not necessarily yogic or alternative practices. I found sort of sought those out myself and was able to then, locate different teachers along the way. So I guess my first aha moment was really, as a teenager, and just really recognizing that there was more to healing than, just dealing with the body and dealing with the mind. That there's this whole world of emotions and of intuition and connecting to spirit that also needed to come into play.
I love that. 12 years old, wow, that was very young to have your body image so disproportionately, I keep wanting to say attacked, in a sense,
Unfortunate. You see it. I mean, it's definitely a thing for young women, and not just women, of course, right? But definitely across the board. It can be a spectrum ranging to a disordered or destructive behaviors, but then it can be something as mild as just really feeling uncomfortable in the body on a daily basis, and maybe not resorting to destructive behaviors with it necessarily, but just having negative thoughts, et cetera, just not feeling fully comfortable. So I work with people on a range of that spectrum.
Wow. Yeah, let's talk about the actual work. What kind of process do you take people through? How does what does it look like if I call you up and say, okay, I need this?
So that's always a tricky question to answer, because it is one of the beautiful things, and that I like to really emphasize, is that music is so personal, as are some of these practices. So I'm not going to just leave you there, right? But that's really something I want to emphasize. Like, people will say, "Oh, music is healing." Period. Music's also destructive.
Right.
Music is, sounds. Extreme
Right.
vibration can do all kinds of things to physical structures, right? So it's really a big part of it is about getting to know you, what's going on for you, and especially some of the more recent research has shown that our preferences play a huge impact in terms of how music impacts us for our benefit, or pain reduction. I think this done around. So music, they compared white noise with music specifically designed to be relaxing, and then an individual's chosen or preferred music, and it was the chosen and preferred music that had the most significant benefit in terms of being helpful in terms of pain reduction. So that is a big part of it, is just getting to work with people and their individual stories around, everyone, most people, I don't want to say everyone, but most people have music that evokes memories for them, or just some standout pieces, or songs that bring them back into certain moments in their lives. So that could be a place to start. Looking at how you respond. For some people, some music is relaxing. For other people, it's not. For some people, it's uplifting. For other people, it's not. And so tailoring music choices around that. And then not just the listening component. There also is a really what we call active music making. So not just listening to music, but finding ways to make music in sometimes very simple. I won't say simple, but it doesn't need to be elaborate. You don't need to be an opera singer, or we all have a voice. We all have a heartbeat, so we can all connect to rhythm. We can all clap our hands and tap our feet and So it's just starting to unlock some of those processes. Combining that with, there are some different techniques that I like to bring in terms of mindfulness and breath awareness, as well as, getting in touch with what are some of the challenging or negative emotions that we hold in the body. How can we name those? How can we release those verbally, sonically, and then reprogram different feelings, different thoughts, and words and other practices. Sound is really intimately linked with our emotional memory, so it can be a really great tool to help with deprogramming things that are going on and then reprogramming new sets of connections and belief patterns. So that's just a little glimpse into some of what would go on. But yeah, absolutely, it's about tailoring it to you and then using those particular tendencies in specific ways.
Wow. Okay. So now what occurs to me might be completely off base, but as a heart math practitioner, we've studied the electromagnetic force of the heart compared to the brain, and these are all frequencies, of course, and you might say band waves. So to me, it really makes a lot of sense what you're saying, that if you can realign, in a sense, if you first off match up to the frequency, the band wave that triggers that person's positive response, or if it's a negative response, to sort of retune it to a new frequency. Am I at all on the right page here?
Yes, I would say that sounds pretty accurate. It's just a different way of saying it. I do shy away from, statements that, around off frequency, like 432, or, we hear these different, like 564.
Right.
Frequencies are be all end all. And instead, in my experience, and as you look at global music too, that uses all kinds of microtones and different tuning systems, and all sounds have the potential, in my belief, in my experience, to be beneficial, just as much as they can have the potential to be negative. It's just how they're used and when. And so, even for example, I've used songs that can evoke, maybe more typical, what we'd maybe assume negative responses, or like death metal, or like, sad songs, used in certain ways to evoke those emotions, can be actually really beneficial. They can bring them up. They can kind of dig into the wound a little bit so it can be cleaned. They can help people feel witnessed and be heard. Perhaps used in excess, it might, for some people, have a tendency to, create aggression. If all you listen to is really aggressive music, So it's really about some of the details and these sort of catch-all statements and universals around, like, this is the frequency, or this is the Mozart music, and
Right.
Period. I really encourage people to shy away from those.
So there's no holy grail, in other words. You find your sea level, musically speaking. All of my teachers would say that there is no necessarily prescription across the board. Just like medication, there's no, it's a fallacy to believe medication, pharmaceuticals, it's such an art getting it correct for each person. And maybe we don't necessarily recognize that just sort of in general if we've not had experience with that. But I would maybe say that certain music tends to evoke a more relaxation response for more people, but definitely the board, because we have our individual experiences and stories, and I could give you tons of examples of that, of just the people that have their own experiences with a certain being in a foreign country and had a traumatic experience, and so songs that have mantra that they don't understand the language evokes a trauma response, right? So it's like it's really about owning, getting more and more comfortable with what works for you, paying more attention to what works for you. And that's part of what I do, is just help people, even something as simple as develop purposeful playlists, right? Like really tuning in, what works when, why, getting curious, asking more questions, around that kind of stuff. I love that. Now, you also use like sound bath relaxation and different. Talk to us about that and the chanting. You know, how does that? Let's start with the sound bath relaxation. How does that fit into this?
So that tends to access more along the idea of a vibroacoustic or the sensorial experience of different instruments, as opposed to, yes, we'll still have memories and associations with them, but usually the music in those experiences is improvised, and we're usually leaning into, again, the sensation. So what does the sound of an ocean drum, like what is that kind of rushing, shaker, rattly kind of sound, what is that doing for you? And for a lot of people, it can feel relaxing, or also can feel like it's, it can shake things up, or it can stir things up and bring things up, or create a bit of stimulation. And I'll bring that in usually at the beginning of a session just to kind of fluff up the energy body, if you will. What does a particular, sound bowl, what is that frequency doing to you? How are you feeling it in your body? How are you experiencing the sound, between your ears, or are you feeling it resonating a certain part of your body? So it's focusing more on, again, the sensorial experience of vibration and what that experience can bring in terms of, reducing the fight or flight response, calming breath patterns, calming heart rates. Those can be the typical responses that we go for. Again, I tend to offer those in group, but I actually have honestly been questioning that choice, because in a group, groups have advantages and drawbacks. In a group, you tend to have to aim for kind of an average, and some people will have, other people have, I don't like that response. And it's difficult to tailor it to people in a group, because I'm not getting direct feedback from someone, versus if I'm working one-on-one with somebody, then we can, get curious. Okay, well, what is that response? And is it a response, maybe the negative response we can lean into a little bit more and dig in, or maybe we need to back off a little bit more. So again, through this time of distancing, I've really actually been contemplating whether a group process is the way that I want to work, or if the way is the most beneficial for the people that I work with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I know one thing that's been effective, since I've been, blessed on this end to be able to just listen to some of the songs that you've shared, which have that same kind of feeling. They're very healing. So that maybe is your method for dealing with groups. And I know that you've done concerts, you've made records. I believe you have a new one coming out. Is that right? Let's talk about all that.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. So on top of all this, the work that I do with people, I also create my music, my songs, both world fusion mantra music and then original songs. And a lot of it, what's coming out right now, I've got a double album coming out. I've been releasing singles through the spring, and I'll release some more through the fall. And these two albums are really just about watershed moments for myself, and even people that I've worked with, and just, having the gift of working with people and just observing how different people have responded to some really difficult situations in their lives, and just, a whole range of just, needing to embrace their tears, which is, what Little Rain is about, or, Journey On, the song I released in March. It feels tough. It feels like crap. But, I know that this is the way through, right? So it's a more fiery song, I guess, or power song, I guess, towards more of like a lullaby, or, remember that the miracle is you, and, times might be really challenging and it's confusing right now, and we're all shifting right now, but just remember that there's this miracle, this light inside of you, which is the next song to be released in a couple of weeks, The Miracle. So just been really, these songs have been my personal way of processing my own process and the work that I do, and just expressing what I've noticed, and offering that to other people as a way to reflect and a way to take solace in difficult times.
Well, I love that. I muted because forgive the helicopter flying by. We are in a very small space, so I'm doing this outside in Norway, where I happen to be sheltered in another country. All good, but I love that you can turn anything in the way you want to. Just we're doing now, calling each other from different countries in the middle of everything that's going on, to take a moment to be of service. And it's what moved me to reach out to you, because your work is so clear, and your mission is really tangible. And I know that if you make a difference through a single post, I can only imagine the difference that you can make one-on-one, working deeply with people. And then, of course, the outlet of your music. Congratulations, by the way. A double album, that's a really big deal. That doesn't happen your first time out, does it?
It's been a long, I've been writing and recording for well over a decade. Some of these songs I've been writing for, 10 years before.
Wow. And so they almost sound like stories in a sense, right? As you share about your experiences and those that you've helped.
Sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, each song definitely has a story, and if not, a particular, person or a couple of people that I've worked with, or just even within myself, just something that I needed, 10 years ago, came back from traveling, was really, looking at some of my own stuff, or the final remnants of just perfectionistic kind of thinking, and really challenging myself to dig into those and not avoid them. And I was feeling quite discouraged personally, and I just needed to write, something like a lullaby, it's, you got this. It's confusing, and there's a miracle inside of you, just like there's a miracle inside of all of us, right? And just keep remembering that. Don't forget that light.
Oh, beautiful. I want to hear that song. This should be good timing to play that nightly. All right, so I really want to I need that single. I really want to ask you now, before we run out of time, about your miracle project. What is that?
So, to kind of commemorate this release, it just occurred to me that, I was thinking about making a music video, and rather than making a video that focused just on me, which I did for Journey On, which is a really cool process, that especially at this time of distancing, that a lot of us could use, something fun and inspirational to do, and something that kind of helps us connect in different ways. And so what I've asked from people is to take a relatively short video. I've asked for 10 to 20 seconds, or you could do 30 seconds. And I'd like to use maybe about 6 seconds of each person, just filming yourself, or have someone film you with your phone in the horizontal position. Just being yourself. And I've made suggestions like smiling or laughing, or out in nature, or your favorite spot. But I've got some videos coming in from, people that I've worked with in the hospital. They're all gowned up and, doing kind of kooky things with their glasses, or even just looking into the camera. But the message is the miracle is you. And so just in some way, remembering that, embodying that in some way, and then filming that, and then sending it to me. I've got through WeTransfer is a really great online platform. It's free. It's a good way to send videos, which can be sometimes, larger memory-sized files, and just, send it to my email, which is sparrowbmusic@gmail.com.
You broke up. Say your
basically
email again for everyone, because we lost you for a minute.
Yeah. Thank you. No, it's Sparrow B Music. So Sparrow like the bird, BE Music, MUSIC, @gmail.com. And just you can send it to me directly through the email, or you can send it through WeTransfer, which can be easier for people to upload their files. And I'm looking for about 40 to 50 people to be part of this.
It's wonderful, and what a great thing to come up with a project right now for people that's positive, fun, easy, doesn't take a lot of time, but that also gets to focus on being the miracle. It's just you hit every point right out of the park. Wonderful. Well,
Yeah,
now
I hope
before
it's
we
fun for
close out,
people.
I think so.
Go
I
ahead.
love the idea. I was just going to say, any parting thoughts for us before we close out tonight?
Parting thoughts. May we all be free to be here, to do what we came here to be, basically. That's sort of my motto, and what I aspire to hold for myself and for other people, just to be who we came here to be, and to feel that all of us and all of our pieces and bits and beauty and, messiness or whatever it is, the whole spectrum, that it's all welcome and it's all available.
Love the mess. I love it. And it's a beautiful message, just what you came here to be. That's lovely. And, people, have your email if they want to reach out and work with you, which, I'm imagining a lot of people would be very inspired to have that kind of support. You have such a gentle way about you that I know people would feel very comfortable in your presence. And I'm just so grateful that you made the time across the waters, across the world, to connect with us and share who you are and your story. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that, too. I mean, that is just a really beautiful thing, too, and what you're doing here and sharing stories. It's really awesome.
Well, we have more, and I'll let people know how to find them. But I just want to say in closing, thank you, Tiffany Sparrow. What a remarkable guest. Thank you for your gifts and all you're bringing to the world and people whose lives you touch. I also want to thank all our listeners out there, of course. Our producer, the founder of the Divas That Care Network, Candace Gish. Candace actually redefines the word diva to mean a courageously self-assured woman, which, Tiffany, you definitely found your way to. The Divas That Care Network offers women of all walks a platform for sharing their voice in the world. And we invite you to join us. Visit divasthatcare.com to hear more inspiring stories, and why not add your voice to the conversation. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful, blessed day. Take care.